Hello, my name is Debbie. I'm Owlandgator Stitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 87. Today is Friday, July 31st, 2026. This is a video mainly about cross stitch, sometimes about what I'm reading and watching, and a little bit of life thrown in. So welcome. If you're a new viewer, I hope that you like what you see and you'll click on that subscribe button. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really love sharing my cross stitching journey with you and interacting with you, whether it's in the comments or on Instagram or anywhere else. So again, thank you so much. You guys are the reason why I continue to do these videos every month, just because I love cross stitch and I love sharing it. And right now I'm so animated because I attended the Chatelaine retreat last weekend and had such a great time and just even more energized about cross stitch than I usually am. So I am just going to jump in and start talking about my cross stitch. So in addition to the Chatelaine retreat, which dictated some of what I stitched, I also play a lot of games on Facebook and Discord that involve my stitching. And so I'll occasionally reference them. If you ever have any questions about the games I play or like, what is she talking about? Just go and ask me a question. I'm happy to answer it. So none of the groups I am in are exclusive, where if you didn't sign up by a certain time or there's a time limit or a numbers limit, they are open to everyone. They're usually private because they don't want the spammers coming in, but if you're a cross stitcher, they would love to have you most likely. All right, so I have one real finish and one, it is a finish, but I'm not for my stats calling it a finish. And the first one that I'm calling real finish, because it's going off my list, is the Snuggle is Real. This is from the World of Cross Stitching. I believe it was December 2023. I could be a little bit wrong about that, but here it is. So this is a small, but because it was a magazine piece, I only had the hard copy, and it just, the symbols were a bit small and it was quite confetti heavy. But I think that is so cute and adorable. I am a cat lady. I love them. So that's where I am. I will say the color choices they made, they had a lot of different flosses, and everything had a DMC conversion if it wasn't already DMC. I would say that sort of down here, you can sort of see it in that sort of, I think that's like 430, no, it's not 4, it's either 414 or 318, something along those lines. I think that was a little bit bright for what that is. It was not originally called for a DMC. I think if it had been a duller gray, it would have gone a little bit better, just because it just stands out a little too much in that white fluffy bit on the slipper. But that's a minor point. It still looks good in my opinion. This is done on 18 count Aida. It's Fortnite Fabrics. I don't have the color name. The tag is lost to history, but I do know it's Fortnite Fabrics. So, love that one. So cute. When I'll get around to FFIing it, I have no idea, but it's done. Okay, the next one I'm showing you, it is a finish, and it's going to be I have a vision. This is the Bird Crush Club from Lindy Stitches. There are 12 patterns total. I have a vision that I am going to finish all of these as rounds. I have finished number 2 of them. I mean, I'm doing them in not the order that they were published, but this is the second one I've completed, let's put it that way. So this is, I don't even know how to say that, if it's lazuli or lazuli bunting, but there's the actual cross stitch pattern. I'm just showing that. That's the actual bird that she used then to inspire the cross stitch. And here is what I did. And I did this is a 32 count even weave from Bestitch Me. Color is Garden Party. So you can see how the whole fabric, it is quite mottled and quite contrasted with this greens, and then there's peaches and yellows, which I thought, I have no idea what I would stitch on something like this when I got it. But then I thought for this it would be really great because it's going to get cut up and the modeling won't show as much. So here is my finish. So I did all of the called for colors. Ultimately this will be a circle finish when I get there. I have a vision of doing hoop finishes. And it all calls for DMC except for this sort of lighter green that is a Threadworks. All of these patterns did call for one Threadworks, and If you're in the Bird Crush Club, that was included in your packet every month. The only the only change I made was I did some back stitching on under the bird's belly. I didn't think the white was popping very well on this fabric. And in the original model, it's not popping there. She uses a different fabric, but something similar in color. And it just, the bird looked really skinny, and that's not what I wanted. I wanted him to be a proud bunting bird. So I wanted his belly to show. So that was my second finish. I'm calling it, it's in terms of, yes, that, you know, this piece of paper is finished, but it is, I still have 10 more to go. And so it's gonna, this is a long project, so it stays on my list. I used to do them individually, and then I said, you know what, I'm sticking them all together. And then that way I can, that way when I get to it, I can finish, that way it stays on my radar and it doesn't sort of go, well, maybe I'll start it at some point. It's like on my list, and I, when I say what's one I haven't worked on for a while, that one will be there. Okay, so the next one I have is a full coverage. It is part of my 26 and 26, so the goal is to get 2026 stitches on all of these. And it also dovetailed nicely because I needed something that had a musical instrument. So this is Tilton Crafts, Aria by Firelight. I am still on the fence about this, but I'm going to keep working on it. So I needed another 1,000 stitches to get to my 2026. So I did that. And then I had, because of, I'm using this for a challenge group, on top of that, I had to do 200 stitches. So I put in about 1,200 stitches here. And here is where it is now. And I think the reason why I'm keeping going, even though I'm a little bit question mark, is that I, this time, was working sort of, well, in that bird cage. I was finishing some stitches, and then that moved over into this section. It just seems really, I mean, and on the picture, it is very dark up in that corner. So, but I'm not sure about the detail. And at some point I went down to say, okay, what does the fire look like? And I thought, okay, that's looking okay. But the real challenge isn't the fire. The real challenge will be the, I don't want to say carving. What do you call it? Engraving? I don't know. Pattern on like the mantle. It's a stone mantle. So above that. And then getting into it. So I do love the overall image. I think it's beautiful and peaceful. And Tilton Crafts is a good company. I've seen tons of other things that they've stitched. I probably should go look in her Facebook group to see the actual stitch models for this. But it's, for me, this is easy stitching. So I just keep plugging at it. I did most of this here, but then there was one night when I was at the retreat where love my Chatelaines, but sometimes you just need a little break because they can be a bit intense. And so I just pulled this out one evening and did a couple hundred stitches on it. The next piece I have was one of my Whip Go draws for July. And my Whip Go is very loosey-goosey. And so basically this one was put some stitches into it. There's no real goal. So this is A Year in Hawthorn Hollow from Carriage House Samplings. And so I've done these 6, and now I'm working on August. And I had the border done. This one did not get a lot of love, I'm going to be honest. I made the decision I wanted to work on the critters in there, and my mind was on critters because we have a porch, screened-in porch where our cats get to hang out, and one of them seemed a little bit too curious about everything that was going on the porch. We investigated. Turned out we had a bat in our screened-in porch. We have no idea how it got in. We do have rabies in my county, and bats can carry rabies, so we eventually got it out, but it was a bit challenging, and we just then called a company with the name Critter in it that helps deal with wildlife exclusions, as they call it. They don't want to kill any of the wildlife, but they do want to make your house not a home. So anyhow, that's a long way of saying critter was on my mind. So I worked on some of the critters there. Some of them are in the water and some of them are in the forefront of the water. I think I got basically all of them done, and I did that deliberately because that means that at some point I can get and just do uh, the water above it, which then I don't have to like, try and leave negative space for these critters. This is done on a 36 count Picture This Plus, and I don't have the tag on it anymore, so I'd have to look it up, but there's the whole thing. So I think that is looking really great. I am using the DMC conversion provided in the chart. I would suggest that if you are doing this chart to look a little bit more carefully at it than I did, because some of the colors that in my opinion should be like a deep red are quite orangey, and that's not necessarily some of the colors I want, but at some point I just committed to it, and that's where I am. So I might have kind of orange colored strawberries when I get to the June one. We'll see. So that is a year at Hawthorn Hollow. Okay, next one is not going to have many stitches to show you either. Again, I pulled this out for a challenge with the musical instrument, and so I needed to put in a few hundred stitches on this. So this is the Seasons and Stars Hollow. I don't know the official name. I'm trying to find the actual pattern that I'm working on. Oh, here we go. So the block I'm working on now is Summer in Stars Hollow. So, and I've already completed the autumn one. This is a full coverage piece. So I am doing this on a random 28 count of linen that I bought in a D-stash. So first things first, here's where I am. So I'm not too far on that block, but basically what I did was all of that cantaloupe color, which is the name of, I can't remember who the dyer is, but the color is actually called cantaloupe. And then a little bit of that green or teal or whatever you want to call it in the house. So here's the whole thing. So I do love the way that things like the gazebo will cross over. So if you're familiar with Gilmore Girls, you know the importance of the gazebo. So I do like the way that they sort of, yes, you got 4 different patterns. These were part of a box from Black Needle Society, and I don't know if you can get the patterns anymore. But I do love the way that even though there are 4 separate patterns and you had to buy them at separate times, that you could incorporate all of that into, that they had all 4 of them in mind when they did it. Okay, next one was my other Whipco piece, which fortunately I got more done on this than I did on Year at Hawthorn Hollow. And this is Brownfish Owl by Kathy Barrick. So I feel like I've done, and I'm doing this in memory of my grandmother, so I have changed some of the text up here. This is not a reproduction sampler, but it is designed like a reproduction sampler, so I just got rid of that, put my grandmother's date of birth and death. I do have her name charted, but I'm undecided. I don't like the color that was used, but I'm going to wait till I get further along to make sure that I don't run out of colors. I am using the MPI silks for this, so to the extent that I don't have to buy any more, I'd be really happy. So this is done on 32 count even weave from Bestitch Me Colorway Scroll. I do love this color. So here is the whole thing, and it's a little bit, so you can see I put her year of birth and death in there, and that next line is reserved for her name. So it doesn't quite fit. If you have a Q-snap of 11 inches, it doesn't quite fit in that width, which gets a little bit frustrating, but whatever. So this time I worked on that berry bowl. So I may have had a few stitches in that, but I got most of the berries done. I still need to do the negative space in between all the berries, that like dark color you can see in between some of them, as well as a couple of those leafy type things. And then I also started on the basket. I think I just got to the point where, because you have to pay a little bit more attention with those little leafy things, I just, I was getting towards the end of my stitching session, and I wanted to do something a little bit easier. I was a little bit tired, so I did that basket, which was very easy. Just, I think it was like every other stitch. So once you got the first row in, it was very easy to just keep going. Okay, and then And I do apologize for the zippers. If I don't put things away, it's going to be really noisy later. I mean, really messy later. Quieter now, noisy, messy later. All right. So the next one is one that it is my oldest non-full coverage project, and my goal is to get it done this year. I'm getting very close. So this is Stars Bright from Lindy Stitches, and this is one of her older patterns that she released. So I started this in May 2020 for Mania that year. So you can see how close I am to getting it done. So I have this is done on a 32 count linen from Picture This Plus. I believe the color is mint. August, this is not one that I want to take out in public because it is hard for me to see the holes. I've made mistakes on this, which is why it's taken me so long to do this, because unless I have a magnifier, some of the fibers, some of the up and down threads are a little bit hard to see. So ideally, I will get this done this month. But because I know I'm going on vacation, I'm also serving as a poll worker. And while they do expect it not to be great turnout for the election, it's a primary, but I'm also doing early voting, which I know that I'm doing on a college campus and college isn't in session, so we're not going to get a lot of people walking in. But anyhow, that's where I am. And what I did this time, because I'm not sure I'm even going to get there, but I really wanted to get all of this last remaining bit in a Q-snap. But what I did was I did all of the white. So I wanted to make sure it matched up, and it did. All of my quilt squares lined up. And then I basically, those 5 at the bottom, the quilt squares are what I filled in. So the ones that over there. So I'm not 100% sure I can get this all into one Q-snap. I may have to move it again. I also don't know if I am going to have enough time because my vacation's towards the end of the month. And so if I run out of time, if I don't get it done before I go, I might not have time when I come back. Next one is also one that I don't have any goals on, but I just wanted to work on it about 3 days every month. I've not hit that every month. I did hit it this month. That is Queen of Freedom from Mirabilia. This is one of the ones that was, this is one of the older ones that was released, not the one that was re-released in December last year. I'm doing this on a 32 count even weave from Fabrics by Stephanie. Color is Nimue. This is one of my favorite fabric colors because I love blue, and it's not so dark that dark colors don't show, but the white does pop off of it. So I needed, for one of my challenges, I needed bunch of white stitches. So I worked on this little white blob down there, and then I moved up, and once I got all those white stitches I needed, and then I moved up and I worked in this arm, and I am doing that 1/1. I have to say, and I know that it's supposed to be that this arm here is in shadow, but I have to say that kind of darkness there, and it would be this way whether it was 1/1 or 2/2. It's a bit jarring, and I've noticed that on a lot of her patterns, the color that she uses for that dark, like the darkest color that she uses, sometimes I feel like it's too dark. Everything else I think kind of blends nicely, but that one doesn't. But obviously I'm keeping it as it is. I'm not frogging 1/1. So that's where I am. So still a lot to go, but I will also say that, I'm spending a lot of time doing the 1/1. This will not be finished this year. I want to enjoy the process. I don't want to push myself. But if I can get the 1/1 skin done this year, I will be very happy, because I do find Mirabilia's, it's like the right amount of block stitching. There is quite a bit of it, but there's enough color changes that you don't have to, it's not like you're just doing thousands of stitches of the same color, but you're also not doing so much confetti that it gets tedious after a while. Okay. Next one is my last non-chatelaine or chatelaine inspired piece. This is Evening Romance, charted by Artisy, and artwork is by Mark Keithley. I always get this one wrong. Keithley. So there it is. This is for full coverage, a smaller one. It's about 64,000 stitches. So it's a decent size, but it's not like a regular size Hade either. So here is where I am. And I'm going to move my needle minder so you don't have this weird thing in the middle of it. So basically what I did on this one, I finished, so you can see under the bridge those little snow drifts and stuff that are peeking out. I did that. I have about 8,000 stitches to go. I estimate this will take me 2 more months. But I think I can also get that whole last bit. It's like 2 pages and a bit. It can all go into a Q-snap. So I am probably going to do that and just put the Q-snap on. And I doubt I will get to that inspiration where I'm like, oh, I can get the whole thing. You know, like 8,000 stitches, because this is my evening stitch, is not something I can comfortably do, given I've got other things going on. But 4,000 this month, 4,000 next month is totally reasonable. And that's where I am. Okay. All right, now for Chatelaine and Chatelaine Inspired. And the reason why I say Chatelaine Inspired is one of them is from Sussin Designs. The designer is Katie Tanaik. So Chatelaine, I think everyone is aware, the designer Martina Rosenberg died more than 10 years ago now. And she, and it was unexpected, but her daughter has taken over the company. Her daughter is not a designer, but she has continued to make all these amazing charts available to us. So Katie is an amazing stitcher and also an artist. And so she has designed for the past couple years for these retreats, Chatelaine inspired ones. So there we go. This is the mock-up picture, and it is not a great mock-up in my opinion. It doesn't matter which way I hold it, because seeing this in person, it is so stunning. I very rarely start things at retreats. I've just had too many problems where I've started it in the wrong place, you know, either more because like fabric wastage or whatever. It's just, you know, I even if I bring something, I don't feel like I'm measuring properly. My mind isn't in it. But I love this so much and I wanted to start it. So while I was there, I bought a piece of fabric from Owlandgator Studios. And that is the called for color, which is Mushroom Stew. I didn't really want to have that color. So I picked up this one. I just was like grabbing fabrics off the table and running over to the model. I should have just picked up the model, which was on a mounted board, but not framed. And rather than grabbing all the fabrics and going that way, but whatever. So here is where I am now. So it is a mandala designs of sorts. It's Chatelaine inspired. It's got a lot of beads, a lot of specialty stitches. But like these colors are DMC. I think there might be some, yes, there are some like metallics in there. Krynic or Petite Treasure Braid beads, but there's no, as far as I'm aware, no silks or anything like that. So I have all this that I did. And this fabric is from Owlandgator Studios. It's 28 count and it is Stormwatch. So I think, I love this so much. So I was really happy to have a chance to get this started. And because it is mandala, a lot of people chose to start it in the middle. I chose to start at the top. It's not as complicated as some of the Chatelaine ones. And I just, again, with the fabric wastage, if I had like sat down and done the math, I could have, but I knew I wasn't going to do it, or I wasn't going to do it correctly. And so I wanted to see if I could, like, this is a fat quarter. This will not be on a fat quarter. So, you know, if I can have some fabric left over at the end for something else, that would be great. So I started top center because then I could just fold the fabric in half, measure down to my comfort level, and go from there. All right, so at the retreat, I did work on another chatelaine that I started a few years ago, and that is Holland Garden Springtime Mandala. It's got those 3 words in it. I know mandala is the last word. I never can remember the order of it. I do want to show the bag because I picked up this bag at the Stitching Kitten. So I love this bag. That's part of my stash acquisition, which I will show later. And I meant to pull this out of the gooseneck, and I did not. So I will talk a little bit about the retreat while I pull this out of the gooseneck. So anyhow, the retreat was over. Started on Thursday afternoon and ran Saturday, Sunday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but it ran till 11 o'clock at night on Sunday or Saturday. Why do I keep saying I drove back on Sunday? And Maggie and Amy have been doing these retreats for a few years now. This one, last year they did a Chatelaine retreat, but it was quite small. This one, we're back to the very large room that if you've ever gone to one of their retreats, you know. So anyhow, it was just so inspiring to see that brag table. I don't think she's posted a video yet, but I'm sure Deb Drager, the traveling stocking stitcher, who does like all of the PR for the retreat, I'm sure that she will post a video at some point. So, all right, now I'm going to stop talking because here is the whole thing. So this is where I am. So this at the retreat, again, I deliberately left myself easy stitching. So all I had to do, which should have been easy stitching, were those 2 diamonds there, and then started going up. But I made a counting mistake on the diamonds, and again, these are symmetrical pieces, so I did have to frog out one of the diamonds, and I didn't pick up the mistake until I started doing those other lines and things were not matching up. Oh, and I also did those little triangle thingies there. So, and I realized I never showed you the cover photo, which is here. So I am basically, with the exception of beading, done with the center all the way up to, up to there. What I have not done is I have not done any of the satin stitches. I had heard that like you have to be careful doing satin stitches because you might pull them, but you know what? I talked to someone who's done tons of chatelaines on goosenaps, and she said she's never had a problem with that. So like these little gaps in here, there's beads and satin stitches in there. So I do have to go back at some point and do that, but I didn't do that at the retreat. So not a huge amount done. This is on my 26 for 26. So it will get pulled out in the next few months and get more love. I only got in about, I wrote it down here, did I? Yeah, I only got in about 300 stitches. So not a huge amount at the retreat, but again, retreat stitching, you're gabbing and doing everything else. So then the other chatelaine I'm doing, this is a stitch along I am doing with a group of people on Facebook hosted by Maggie and Amy. And oh yes, I keep looking for the photo. I'm realizing there is no photo in there. So I want to show you, I have a photo of it on my phone. That is what it looks like. I'm sorry for the glare. This is Summer Garden. It was done as a class piece. It's broken into 6 parts. Maggie and Amy are breaking it into 12 parts. Theoretically, you're supposed to do a part a month. I'm doing 3 days a month, so I'm woefully behind. This is done on Oak Crown Studio fabric, Vinca. And I had this all nicely folded, and then I unfolded it. So here's the whole thing. And what I did this time, so I had these are like wheat. I had all of that done. So what I did was this part down here, and then the bottom shafts of wheat. Again, I really should know how to say that. Done that. I did on this part for the first time, I did a stitch I've never done called sheaf stitches, Sheaf. They're actually super easy, and we did have it demonstrated for us at the Chatelaine retreat, but I think the directions I could have followed them uh, without the explanation. But Katie did a demonstration for us. They had it projected onto a screen of a lot of the specialty stitches that, whether it's a road stitch, rice stitch, Jessica stitch, she did a bunch of them. So see if I can get up. The problem is I think these colors are quite pale, so you can't really see them. But you can see like some of the dense road stitches. I just think if I get too close, it's just going to get blurry for the sheath stitches, but really enjoying working on this. This is so much fun. Okay, so that is all of the projects I worked on this month. Next month, I will, let's talk a little bit about my plans. So in addition to my routine pieces, Stars Bright, maybe I can finish it, maybe I can't. Evening Romance, Summer Garden, and Queen of Freedom. I will be working on those. I am also participating in semi-sane Stitchers. They are doing a bingo event. But their bingo event is you set your own board, and basically of all of the common DMC colors, so between 1 up through I think 3866 plus white, ecru, and B5200, you make your own board and you put whatever colors you want, and then every day they call out a bunch of colors, and if it's on your board, you stitch that day. So here are my two boards. Sane is only, you do 50 stitches in that color. So that is very reasonable. Where you see the asterisk, that just means that it was a color conversion. Not a big deal, because on Stars Bright there are some variegated flosses. I just used the DMC color conversion that was provided in the chart. And then semi-sane, this you have to do 200 stitches on it. 100 stitches only have to be in the color of, whatever number. So you have to put in 200 stitches, but like, let's say this is 3861. Theoretically, I can put in 100 stitches of 3861 and 100 stitches of something else. But the way I did it, basically the first 3 rows on this one, I just went into Pattern Keeper because I can get the remaining part on Evening Romance in here. And so what has over 200 stitches, and I think it's those first 3 rows minus 934. So it just gives me a way to sort of say if the number gets called, this is the color I'm going to work on. And they all have over 200 stitches. So if I do more than 200 stitches in a session with that color, I'm not going to, take away from another. And so most of these are either from on the semi-sane, in fact, I think they all are from my projects that are my focus projects. And then on my same board, one of them is for my one of my Whip Go pieces that I'll show you shortly. Smaller numbers on Evening Romance, and I can't remember what the pieces. That's always the challenge, is remembering what I used. Like some of that is Stars Bright, and some of it is like Stars Bright is both on semi-sane and sane, depending on how many stitches I thought were left, and then could I get at least 100 stitches of a certain color. Okay, so Whip Go. So one of my Whip Go pieces, I'm sure you're very familiar with this, is Welcome to the North Pole. And this is the one that that is not Welcome to the North Pole. Here it is. Welcome to the North Pole. This is Primrose Cottage stitches. Here's where that is. This was one of the retreat starts I had where I just messed it up, how I started it royally. And then I was doing a color conversion. I will say I don't like the way they've done the color conversion here, that every page has the color you're supposed to use, but it's fancy floss, and I'm doing it with the DMC conversion, which means I have to go to the back, and I didn't do that very well. So it just kind of didn't work out. So I'll just show you where I am. So I have, like, in this first part, I did frog some, and then like where it says North Pole, I'm changing it a little bit, but it just got to the point where I'm like, just move down and start the next band. And at the end, you can figure it out. So you can see I've started the next band. So basically for what I'm doing is a lot of my semi-sane bingo board, which is actually the same board, will be on that. Because there's, 50 stitches of each of those colors. And then my other Whipco one, and I think because I am traveling, I think this is actually a good one to take because it's on 18 count data. And this is called Evidence-Based Science. And it says, well, actually it doesn't have a name. It says, what do we want? Evidence-based science. When do we want it? After peer review. Breach. And so I want to say, like, I pulled this off of Etsy and it was Stitching Science. I am doing this in memory of my father who passed away a couple years ago. And he was a scientist and he felt very, very strongly about how to put it. He feels very strongly that while scientists can disagree respectfully, people who pull up random things on the internet and think they know more than people who have spent years getting their MDs, PhDs, master's degrees, and other advanced learning know nothing. So that's where I am on this. I am using fancy floss for this. I pulled out of my stash and then I got nervous because I'm not sure I have enough. This is because this was a limited edition from Color and Cotton. I did actually a couple years ago have a chance to go to the Color and Cotton store, and while they didn't have this particular color, they kind of had one that was very similar, so I did go buy a skein of that. So hopefully I will do this. So you can see I have Evidence Base Sci, so I need to put the D. The A also needs a little topper, but because this is white Ada, easy to see, I don't need magnifiers to do it. A magnifier to do it. It's a good travel piece. Okay, another piece that I have not shown that I will be working on. So I picked a few pieces every month and put in about 3 days of stitching on them with the goal of finishing them this year. So this one is Vicious. This is Matilda's Stitchy Spot. Why did I call it Vicious? Vicious is another cat pattern because I have a lot of cat patterns. But this is Matilda's Stitchy Spot from Finally a Farm Girl. And it says stitch what you love on the bottom. So I'm not very far on this. This is I stitched this on a scrap of Fortnite fabric that I had. They call it a 32 count even weave, but it doesn't feel like an even weave, so who knows. And here's where I am. So not very far on it. So again, this one is one I put on there a lot on my bingo board. All right, so that is all of the stitching I have to show you. And basically my plans, my games will dictate a lot of what I'm doing. And I've shown you some of the pieces that I'll be working on that incorporate into those plans, though inevitably will be something else I'll pull out and work on. So I'm not stuck to those pieces only, but again, with traveling, don't know what's gonna happen exactly. All right, so the Chatelaine retreat. So much, yeah, I'm just gonna jump in the Chatelaine retreat. So much fun. I had a great time. They have it where it's 6 people at a table. The tables are quite large because with Chatelaines, you need space to put all your stuff. So I was at a table with Pam, who was stitching The Land of Good Enough, Susan from Criminally Creative, Alana, who is, I'm going to say like pharma stitching, and pharma is like, because she's a pharmacist. She hasn't done a video in a while, and quite frankly, Pam hasn't done a video in a while either. She's busy working. And then 2 other lovely ladies who I had not met before who joined us. And one of them, I asked her where she was from, and she's like, I'm from Gainesville. And I was like, so am I. And then it turned out that she's really not from Gainesville. She lives about 45 minutes away from me, but it was really lovely to meet her. And then another woman who was from North Carolina who was a teacher, and she retired. And so she's now doing all the retreats just to figure out what she's going to do in retirement, or if she's going to go back to work or whatever. But she was lovely to meet as well. So I had a great table. I'm going to show a couple of the things I got. I'm not got, so many lovely table gifts and other gifts that were given around. So the only one I'm going to show, because I think it's super cute. So Susan gave this to us, and there were some goodies stuffed in the mouth, but he was adorable. She had him 3D printed, and so it's really good. Like I always am looking for my highlighter on my desk, and I do have a mug that I've got stuff in, but it's kind of gotten overstuffed right now, so it's a little bit hard. So I think he's going to start to be incorporated in there, and he is just adorable. And then the other thing I got from the retreat, I participated in the Smalls Exchange, and so I got this Biscornu. It was in a bag that was kind of blue, and then there was tissue paper with like peacocks. So I'm guessing that's either a peacock or at least some kind of bird. And absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I think those are actually sequins on there. But shiny stuff and all that. And then the bottom, you have the actual peacocks themselves. I mean, this is absolutely stunning. And I just love the button on there on the top. The bottom one is more plain, but that is beautiful. So thank you so much to the person who gifted this to me. I do know your name, but I didn't ask for permission. Thank you so much for participating in the Smalls Exchange and gifting this to me. Okay, and then I'm just going to say, so on the way up, I stopped at the Stitching Kitten, which is a shop in Irmo, South Carolina, which is near Columbia. It probably adds on like a half hour to my journey, but it's a good place because I need a break. Anyhow, about that point, it's about an hour and a half from there to Charlotte, and I need mental fortitude every time I'm approaching Charlotte because the Beltway is just out of control. So I did get one piece of fabric at the Stitching Kitten. I controlled myself because I knew I was going to a retreat where there is an amazing fabric dyer. I kind of have gone a little bit overboard with some of my fabrics, so I'm just gonna not show every piece, but show you the stack I got. And guess what my theme was? Blue. So that's what I got. Some of these I have specific projects in mind for. I can probably put these two on top too. Look, I got one that's not blue. Some of these I do have specific projects for in mind. Some of them I just like the color, so I don't. So those are the fabrics I got. Okay, and now I'm just going to move into some generic stuff. So I ordered this one in December, and they finally came. My Lady of the Flag beads that I ordered. I ordered from Lindy Stitches. The delay was not her. It was just, I think, Witchelt. And Mill Hill took a long time to pull the bead packs together. And then I got the bead pack, and I haven't started Lady of the Flag, but in my mind, I know I want to do the kind of Statue of Liberty conversion, and those beads are not the right colors. So lots of waiting for beads, and I probably won't use most of them. All right. Other things, Denise from Black Ribbon Stitch Studio had a giveaway. And so it was, I think, for I'm going to say it wrong, Fat Quarter Shop, one of their, I don't know if it's a monthly or quarterly stitch things, but it came in this lovely bag. It's one of these bags that you can stitch on, but I always think like when they've got this pretty pattern, unless you're just doing a solid color, why stitch on it? Keep the pretty bag. And so what was in here? So okay, so I don't know. So this really pretty pattern here. That's just information about it. She did include some of the goodies. So a corner gauge. And then I feel like, oh yeah, and I'm going to really botch holding all of this up because, and woo, floss colors, all the floss. And that was really horrible for showing them all of them for that pattern. So thank you, Denise. It's beautiful. I love it. All right. And then I definitely this month fell for it's on sale or it's available. So I think all of you are familiar with the Cooler Design Studios, their seasonal patterns. And it used to be only you could get paper copies, and now everything Cross Stitch has PDFs. So they had, I can't remember if it was a PDF sale or a Cooler Designs Studio sale. I don't remember what the thing was, but I knew I've been looking at these for a long time. They went on sale, and I thought, you might as well get them now. They do go into Pattern Keeper. You have to enter the floss list, and then back stitch isn't there, and there is a bit of back stitch. But I got this, and lo and behold, I found out they're not full coverage. Who knew? But anyhow, so autumn, and these aren't perfect because my black on my printer is a bit wonky. So that's winter, so you can see like in the name there, but I think the colors themselves showed up pretty well. That's winter. So I know like I've loved these patterns ever since Jessie Marie Does Stuff showed them on her, like she's got the summer one, and for years she's been showing it and I've loved it. And this is spring. And I will just use like some simple fabric for this. And then I feel like I'm missing one. Did I show summer? I didn't print out the whole chart. I just printed out the cover pages. Okay, so that's some of it. And then I will not show it to you, but also Magnifica beads are available again, which are they for years. You could only buy them if they were in kits. So let's just say there was one bead in particular I was looking for that I could see it in a pack, a whole bead pack for something I wasn't going to stitch. I withheld and said, maybe you can just substitute a bead for that and don't get it. But I'm glad I didn't get it because I was able to put an order in with 123 Stitch. I mean, I saw that email, it came in like first thing in the morning and I get up really early. I could not have purchased it fast enough. So I got like a big piece of fabric so I could, just for my full coverages, and then the beads and then some weird specialty flosses. All right, so when I stopped at the Stitching Kitten, I picked up a few patterns there. So Caroline from the Stitching Kitten, she has, under the name Stitching Kitten, she does have a design company, but she also has the Fabled Hollow. And this was one, I think it came out last year. Sorry, it's in the plastic. She does have Fancy Ladies. This one is called Maiden of, I'm not even going to, Chronomancy. I mean, I know it means time. Not sure I would do it on a fabric that dark because part of what I love about it is the clock back there, and I don't think the clock shows up great. So I would probably do something a tad lighter, but obviously I'd want that her hair and her lovely top to show up. So I would choose something lighter than this, but still on the dark side, you know, and my habit right now is Nimue. I love it. So we'll see what Stephanie when I go to my next retreat that Stephanie is attending, what she has. I also picked up this, they had a trunk show. This is from Shaded Stitchery, Queen of Sorrows and Joy. The model was lovely. It's monochromatic, so you can really do whatever you want with this, but there's something that's so elegant about this. I really like Shaded Stitchery, the designs that she had. There were a lot. I restrained myself. And then I picked up Aviary from Jet X Stitch. I love Jet X Stitches. I love her designs. But like if you go to an LNS, they're not the easiest ones to find. And I don't know why more LNSs aren't stocking them because I think they're amazing. So I picked up this one. I think she said this was, I can't put my glasses on. I can't see what the year is on this. But I think this might have been Marketplace last summer. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, and then freebie table galore. People at the Chatelaine retreat are very, very generous with what they put on the table. So I picked up these two Noras. I picked up this Busilla Wolf kit. This is a full coverage. There was another wolf kit on the table as well. So I picked up both of them because someone at my table, she said her husband loves wolves, and so I picked them up and said, which one do you like? And I'll keep the other one. So she picked the other one. I actually like this one better, so perfect match. Also picked up this cute little Dimensions kit. Silver Bells from Lindy Stitches, because in my opinion, you can never have enough Lindy Stitches. Oh, and then two more things I picked up at the Stitching Kitten. These are Mill Hill kits, these two. And I picked these up because I thought these would be great smalls. This is done, I think, on what they call the perforated PVC. And this one actually has fabric in there. I had seen like people do the magnets, and I thought that would be a great smalls exchange. But when I looked at the magnets, they're actually just 100% beaded. And I thought, ooh, that's maybe small, but it's a lot. So I chose to pick up these two. I thought they would be great smalls. Okay, that is all of the stitching I have to show you. I'm going to jump into the book I want to talk about um, because I read an amazing book, in my opinion. It was called Devour Me. Here is the cover. I read it on my Kindle. Devour Me from Emily Rath. I would call this a paranormal romance. It's definitely a paranormal romance. I thought there was another word that was going to be in there, but I can't. It's a paranormal romance involving a witch, and the witch in this case is a male, a human who's a female, and a wraith, which is basically a soul-sucking demon, for lack of a better word. But it's if you're familiar with Emily Rath, she's kind of a why choose type author. So very, very spicy book. And basically it's just set up where from the very beginning, you have this, she's a PhD student at a university, and she's kind of in a, I don't want to say desperate financial situation, but the, students don't have a lot of money, and the fellowship that she thought she was going to have that would allow her to stay on campus and work and get money and pay her summer tuition has evaporated. And so she basically gets very quickly another fellowship, but it's off campus and she needs a place to live. So her best friend says, hey, why don't you live above my uncle's shop and work there, because I was supposed to do that. And now I'm going to go run off to Europe with my boyfriend for the summer. So it's like that's the setup. And basically from the very first chapter, the wraith is supposed as like he's I won't say in captivity, but he's bound to an evil witch who wants him to suck the soul from the male witch, who is not bad. And so when he goes to do it, and he starts to do it, so he's about to kill this man when he sucks the soul, the human student basically yells, stop. And he stops, and the soul goes back into the witch. And it's all like, wait, no one has ever been able to stop a wraith once he starts. And that's the dynamic. And then it goes back a couple days, and you get a little bit of the backstory, and then it propels forward. But it is so much fun. The only caution I would have, in addition to the spice, if that's not your thing, is that it ends on a major cliffhanger. I am not used to cliffhangers in my romances. I like my romances with the happily ever after tied up in a bow at the end. I know this author. I know this is going to be part of at least a duology, if not more. But I love this author, so I'm willing to put up with it and impatiently wait. She better not pull a George R.R. Martin, who I've never forgiven for not giving us the last 2 books of Game of Thrones, because it's supposed, there are questions I have from the books that do not get addressed in the TV show. Just gonna say that. Not that I have too much resentment, because I do. But anyhow, so that is where, that's what I've read, that I read a lot more. You can see I've got that whole bookshelf back there of things that I should be reading, and instead I read off my Kindle and get things from the library. But anyhow, so what's going on in my life? Chatelaine retreat was sort of the big thing I did. If I did something else earlier in July, I honestly don't remember. Volunteering at Friends in the Library, trying to stay out of the heat here in Florida because it's hot. I know we are set up for it, so I can spend a lot of time in my air conditioning, dealing with bats on the porch, which is not fun. I did go to California. I mentioned this last month. I did go to California for my aunt's celebration of life. She died in March. This is my mom's twin sister, so I traveled with my mom. And my mom is able to travel on her own, but she prefers not to these days. She is 85. So, sort of took her, and then my brother and his wife and one of his kids, who's an adult, was there, a bunch of my cousins, and a number of like the grandchildren, but then one other, what would be second cousin to my niece, whatever, try and figure that one out. Oh, and I have a bird feeder right outside my window, and we have a blue jay, which is like the first time I've seen a blue jay on our bird feeder. So that was totally a distraction. But it was nice just to see a lot of my cousins, and we ended up doing what I would call an unexpected hike. We hiked up a mountain or hill, and I was told there's a short loop. Like if you don't want to do the whole thing, which was like 9 miles, if you don't want to do the whole thing, there's like a 3 mile loop you can do. I'm like, hey, I can handle that. Yeah, it was not a 3 mile loop. We did basically 2 miles up a hill. It was probably only 700 feet elevation. But the point I made was I live in Florida. The highest point here is like 400 feet, and that's not even where I live. I'm above sea level, but not much above sea level. And we started at 500 feet. So, going up a hill, I'm like, just because I'm not used to that and I'm not in the best shape either. And my cousins, like, they're all like uber healthy. So, anyhow, so I hike up this, and then like me and the youngest person, she decided she wanted to go home. So the two of us did finish the lower loop. So that was only a 4.5 mile hike that I didn't really plan to do in California. So glad I did it. I did it. I survived. No ill feelings, but I was very thirsty at the bottom. Let's put it that way. I have water with me, but I drank all my water. But that was the only other thing of note that I did in July, and I probably talked long enough. So if you're here till the end, thank you so much for watching and listening. And I will see you hopefully at the end of August, assuming that I actually get some stitching done. If I don't go out and enjoy myself too much. All right, happy stitching, everyone.